Imagine this. You're trapped 500 feet beneath the ocean's surface, pitch black. The air is so thick you can barely breathe. The carbon dioxide level is nearing the point of no return. Your batteries are at 8%, and above you, 14 enemy destroyers are circling. The depth charges are exploding so close, the steel walls of your U-boat are shaking like paper, and you can't surface, because you've already sunk 12 enemy ships. Because the entire British Atlantic Fleet is hunting you, because one single mistake means 48 men will die, trapped inside an iron coffin, 47,000 tons, 96 hours, 0 times surfaced. This is the true story of Lieutenant Commander Werner Hartmann, a man who pushed the physical limits of a U-boat, a commander who led his crew through hell and survived. But at what cost? March 1943, the North Atlantic. The Battle of the Atlantic is at its peak. Germany has 400 U-boats in operation. Britain is on the verge of being strangled. Every day, thousands of tons of supplies are sent to a watery grave. Werner Hartmann was already a legend, with 26 ships sunk and over 115,000 tons to his name. He was among the most successful U-boat commanders in the German Navy. He held the Knight's Cross with oak leaves. He had the respect of his men, and he possessed something few commanders did: the ability to remain ice-cold under extreme pressure. His U-boat was U-198, a Type IXD2. Bigger than the standard Type 7, longer range, more torpedoes, but also slower, harder to maneuver, a giant that was vulnerable. The mission was simple: intercept convoy SC-122, sink merchant ships, return. No one expected it would become 96 hours of hell. March 5th, 1943, 041 17 hours. Position 52 degrees north, 35 degrees west. Hartmann is at the periscope. His hands are ice cold, not from the temperature, but from the tension. The sea is rough. Waves 13 feet high are crashing against the periscope, perfect for an attack. The waves conceal the periscope. The moon is hidden behind clouds. It's the ideal night to hunt. He slowly rotates the periscope, 360 degrees, scanning the horizon, and then he sees them, black silhouettes against the grey sky. Ships, many ships. Convoy sighted, reports the first watch officer, Lieutenant Dave Webber. His voice is calm, but Hartmann can hear the excitement beneath the surface. Distance 8,000 meters, course 270, speed 9 knots. Hartmann counts the ships. 1, 2, 5, 10, 15. 23 merchant ships in total. 4 corvettes circle the herd like guard dogs, 2 destroyers as the main escort. A juicy target, but extremely dangerous. He picks up his binoculars, studies each ship. The largest freighter is in the middle, maybe 8,000 tons, fully loaded, sitting deep in the water, probably tanks or aircraft parts. Next to it, a tanker, 6,000 tons. Riding high, almost empty. No, wait, it's riding too low for an empty tanker. That means fuel, gasoline or diesel. All hands to battle stations, Hartmann orders quietly. His voice is barely louder than a whisper. But on the U-boat, everyone hears it. Torpedo tubes 1 through 4. Prepare for firing. Target the 2 largest freighters in the center. Torpedo officer, calculate course and speed. In the torpedo room, 4 men spring into action. They open the tubes, check the torpedoes. The torpedo mechanic, Chief Petty Officer Frank Miller, everyone calls him Fritz, personally inspects each torpedo. He taps the steel hull, listens to the sound. A full torpedo sounds different from a defective one. Tube 1 ready, he reports through the intercom. Tube 2 ready. Tube 3 ready. Tube 4 ready. The U-boat creeps closer. 6,000 meters, 5,000, 4,000. The crew is absolutely silent. 48 men hold their breath. Everyone knows a single sound can betray them. The British ASDIC sonar will pick up any noise. A dropped tool, a cough, a sneeze. Anything can be fatal. In the engine room, First Lieutenant Hank Schneider keeps the electric motors at minimum. 3 knots, creeping speed. The batteries are full, 100%, but he knows it won't stay that way for long. 3,000 meters. Hartmann presses his eye against the periscope. He calculates. Angle, 45 degrees. Target speed, 9 knots. Wind force, 4 on the Beaufort scale. Current, 2 knots, northeast. Distance, 2,800 meters now. He's a master of mathematics. In U-boat school, he was the best in his class. Torpedo firing isn't art, it's science, pure physics. A torpedo weighs 1,500 kilograms, costs 250,000 Reichsmarks. You don't waste them. Targeting solution for Tube 1, freighter number 12 in the formation, midships. Torpedo depth setting, 4 meters. The torpedo officer enters the data. The mechanical computers in the torpedo targeting system calculate. Click, click, click. Solution calculated, Herr Kapitän. Hartmann takes a deep breath, holds it, and gives the order that changes everything. Tube 1, fire! A hiss, a muffled thump. The torpedo leaves the tube. 1,500 kilograms of steel and explosives slide into the water. The U-boat rocks slightly from the recoil. Tube 2, fire! Tube 3, fire! Tube 4, fire! 4 torpedoes on their way. 4 white streaks in the dark water, invisible from above, but lethal. The soundman, Lance Corporal Paul Schmidt, puts on his headphones. He listens to the torpedo motors. Whir, whir, whir. 4 different frequencies. He counts. Run time 2 minutes 18 seconds to first target. All the men in the control room stare at their watches. No one breathes, no one moves. The seconds crawl by like hours. 2 minutes 10 seconds, 2 minutes 15 seconds, 2 minutes 17 seconds, 2 minutes 18 seconds. Then boom! The explosion is so violent it makes the water vibrate. The soundman rips off his headphones. Hit! Torpedo 1, direct hit. Through the periscope, Hartmann sees the freighter. 8,000 tons of steel are struck midships. The torpedo explodes directly beneath the engine room. The ship's hull tears open. Water floods in. The ship breaks apart like a toy. In 90 seconds, it's gone. 4 seconds later, boom! The second hit. A tanker explodes. 6,000 tons of fuel detonate all at once. A huge pillar of fire rises 650 feet into the sky. The explosion is so bright that night turns into day. Hartmann has to close his eyes, even through the periscope. The light is blinding. Boom! Torpedo 3, another freighter, 5,000 tons, hit, sinking. Boom! Torpedo 4, another freighter, 4,000 tons. 4 hits confirmed, reports Watch Officer Weber. His voice trembles with excitement. 4 ships sunk, Lieutenant Commander, 23,000 tons. In the control room, some men want to cheer. But Hartmann raises his hand. His gesture is clear, silence, because he knows what's coming next. He looks through the periscope. The destroyers have seen the torpedo tracks. They're turning. Their smokestacks spew black smoke. Full speed ahead. They're racing towards the last known position of U-198, 30 knots, maybe 35, and their ASDIC devices are activated. Hartmann can almost feel the sound waves. Crash dive to 400 feet, close all hatches immediately. The alarm bell howls. Ding, 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 red lights flash, men run to their stations. The hatches are slammed shut. Clang, clang. Heavy steel lids, watertight. Flood the dive tanks, shouts Chief Petty Officer Schneider. A loud rushing sound. Water streams into the tanks. The U-boat gets heavier. The bow dips 5 degrees, 10 degrees, 15 degrees. Hartmann holds onto a stanchion. The U-boat is diving fast. Too fast, perhaps, but he has no choice. 60 feet, 130 feet, 200 feet. 260 feet. The destroyers are now directly overhead. Their propellers are so loud that the sonar operator flinches. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. And then Hartmann hears it, the sound that every U-boat sailor dreads. Ping, ping, ping. The Azdic sonar. The British have found them. To 400 feet, faster, Hartmann barks. 330 feet, 360 feet, 400 feet, and then, whoomp! The first depth charge explodes. 160 feet away, but the shockwave hits the U-boat like a sledgehammer. The whole boat shakes. Glass breaks, instruments fall from the walls. A seaman, young Michael Johnson, just 19 years old, hits his head against a valve. Blood runs down his face. He doesn't scream. He clenches his teeth. That's what he's been taught. Whump, whump, whump. 3 more depth charges. Closer now. The lights flicker. Somewhere in the stern. Metal. Screeches. A terrible sound. Report damage, Hartmann calls out. His voice is calm, ice cold, as if this were all just a drill. The answer comes from the stern. Rudder slightly damaged, Lieutenant Commander. Hydraulics are leaking oil, but it still works. Otherwise, all clear. Hartmann nods. That was just the first wave, just the first 4 depth charges. The destroyers have at least 60 depth charges on board, each destroyer. That means 120 depth charges in total. And they're going to drop every single one. Many more would be coming, but Hartmann had a plan. A mad plan, a plan that no one had ever tried before. And if it worked, they would survive. If not, 48 men would sink to the bottom of the ocean in an iron coffin. Cliffhanger 1. Hartmann knows. If he surfaces now, he's dead. The destroyers will tear him to pieces, but if he stays down, he'll run out of air. The batteries will be dead. His crew will slowly suffocate. Most commanders would flee, dive deep, hide, wait for the destroyers to leave. But Lieutenant Commander Werner Hartmann is not like most commanders. He makes a decision that seems insane. He stays, and he keeps attacking. Part 2. The tactics of insanity. The depth charges stop. The destroyers continue to circle overhead. They drop hydrophones into the water. Listening, waiting. They know the U-boat is still down there. Somewhere. In the control room of U-198. It's deathly quiet. Hartmann studies the nautical chart. His eyes move quickly. He calculates, thinks, plans. Then he makes a decision that would send any other commander to a court-martial. Course 180, Hartmann orders. His voice is quiet, but absolutely certain. Silent running, 3 knots. Chief Petty Officer Miller stares at him. His eyes are wide. Lieutenant Commander, course 180 means... That means back to the convoy. That's... I know what it means, Hartmann says. His tone is sharp, then it softens. And we only have 67% battery left. If we flee, they'll hunt us. They'll drop hydrophones, call in more destroyers. In 8 hours, we're empty. And then we die. But if we go back to the convoy, then they won't expect it, Hartmann interrupts. Execute the order, now. Miller hesitates. Then he nods. Aye, Lieutenant Commander. What Hartmann has realized is brilliant and insane. The destroyers expect him to flee. North, east. Away from the convoy. That standard U-boat tactic. Attack and run, hit and run. But Hartmann is doing the opposite. He's going back, right back to the convoy, back into the lion's den, underneath the burning ships. It's a move that no one expects. The destroyers are searching in the wrong direction, to the north and east, and U-198 is sneaking south under the convoy, like a ghost. Hour after hour, foot by foot, 3 knots, barely faster than a man can walk. 8 hours pass. Then 12 hours, then 16 hours. In the U-boat, the air grows thicker. Every breath is work. The carbon dioxide level rises, 2%, then 2.5%. At 3%, people start to hallucinate. At 4%, they die. Men sit motionless. Movement uses oxygen, so they sit, stare into nothing, thinking about home, about their families, about their mothers. Young Michael Johnson, the seaman with the head wound, has a photo in his hand. His fiancée, Ashley. He married her in January. 3 days of honeymoon, then back to the U-boat. She's pregnant. The baby is due in August. Will he ever see it? March 6th, 02:35 hours, 18 hours underwater. Hartmann raises the periscope. Only for 12 seconds. Longer is too dangerous. He rotates it quickly, 360 degrees, and then he sees them. 3 large freighters, unprotected. The escort is still on the other side of the convoy. They're still searching for the U-boat to the north. They have no idea that Hartmann has come back. It's the perfect target. But Hartmann hesitates. His torpedoes are limited. He has 6 left. From the original 10, he has to use every torpedo wisely. He studies the ships. The middle one is the largest, 9,000 tons. Fully loaded, it's floating deep, very deep. That means heavy cargo, probably tanks, maybe even artillery. Ready tubes 5 and 6. Quickly. Target designation, freighter in position 240. Distance 2,200 yards. Depth 13 feet in the torpedo room. Fritz loads the tubes. His hands tremble, not from fear, but from exhaustion and lack of oxygen. Every movement is a struggle. Tube 5. Ready? Tube 6 ready. Lieutenant Commander Hartmann counts to 3, exhales, and gives the order. Tube 5, fire. Tube 6, fire. 2 torpedoes, 2 white trails, invisible in the darkness. Time to impact, 1 minute, 47 seconds. The men count in their heads. Silently, 100, 95, 90, 85, and then, boom, hit. The first freighter is struck amidships. 9,000 tons of steel and tanks begin to sink. Boom! The second torpedo hits another freighter. 6,000 tons. It too breaks apart. 2 hits confirmed, whispers the sonar operator. Total of 15,000 tons sunk. That makes 6 ships in total, 38,000 tons. But now, all hell breaks loose. The destroyers have heard the explosions. They turn to intercept, full speed. They race back toward the convoy. 6 destroyers, all activating their ASDIC. Ping, 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 ping. 6 different sonar devices are searching for U-198. Crash dive to 600 feet. Shut down all non-essential systems. Emergency lighting only. The U-boat plunges. The lights go out. Only weak red emergency lights remain. Everything is bathed in a blood-red glow. The men look like ghosts. 500 feet, 550 feet. 600 feet, this is deeper than the safe limit. A Type IXD2 is designed for a maximum of 500 feet. After that, the pressure hull begins to give way. The steel walls creak, a terrible sound, like a living being groaning in pain. Rivets begin to vibrate, some pop out. Small streams of water spray in, and then the nightmare begins. 6 destroyers drop depth charges. Simultaneously in patterns. They know the U-boat is down here somewhere, so they drop everything. Whump, 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 whump. 5 bombs explode in 30 seconds. The sea boils. The explosions are so close that the light bulbs shatter, even the emergency lights. Total darkness. In the dark, the men only hear the detonations. Whump! The U-boat is tossed upward. Whump! Flung to the side. Whump! Pushed downward. Men fall, scream. In the torpedo room, a seam ruptures. A stream of water, thick as an arm, sprays in, ice cold. With the pressure of 18 atmospheres, "Leak in the torpedo room!" shouts Fritz. "Water rising!" "Plug it!" orders Hartmann. His voice is calm, ice cold, as if nothing unusual is happening, as if they're not about to die. Fritz and two other men fight against the jet of water. They try to hammer wooden wedges into the seam, but the pressure is too strong. The water stream hurls the wedges away like toys. "Blankets, rags, anything we have," shouts Fritz. They stuff rags into the seam, blankets, uniform jackets, everything. Slowly the water stream weakens, thins, but it doesn't stop. A thin stream, but constant. The water in the torpedo room rises 4 inches, 8 inches, 12 inches. "Start the pumps," orders Hartmann, but Schneider shakes his head. "Lieutenant Commander, the pumps make noise. The destroyers will—" "I know," says Hartmann, "but if we don't pump, we sink. So pump it." The pumps start, a mechanical whirring sound. Whoop, 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 barely audible inside the U-boat, but outside. For the Azdik, ping, 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 the destroyers have heard it. They turn to intercept, getting closer. Whump, 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 more depth charges. Battery, 52%, 24 hours underwater. The air is now truly toxic. The carbon dioxide level is at 3.2%. Critical. Men begin to gasp. Every breath is like breathing through a wet sponge. Headaches pound in their skulls. Nausea rises in their stomachs. These are the first symptoms of carbon dioxide poisoning. Young Otto Braun vomits in a corner. The stench spreads. Vomit and sweat and fear. The smell of hell. "Deploy the soda-lime canisters," orders Hartmann. All of them. The soda-lime canisters are activated. They absorb CO2. Chemically, lithium hydroxide reacts with carbon dioxide. It works. The carbon dioxide level drops. 3.0%. 2. 8%. But the canisters only last 12 hours. They have 8 canisters. That means a maximum of 96 hours total runtime if they ration them. And then the air is deadly. Hartmann sits in his chair in the control room. He doesn't close his eyes. He doesn't sleep. He thinks, plans, calculates. 24 hours underwater, 52% battery, CO2 at 2.8%, water in the torpedo room, 6 destroyers above them, and he has 4 torpedoes left. The question isn't whether he continues to fight. The question is, how long can he survive? Hartmann has no answer, but he has a will, and that has to be enough. Cliffhanger 2. The destroyers above don't stop. Ping, ping, ping. The Azdik sound is like a death sentence. Every ping means, "We know where you are." 36 hours underwater. Battery at 41%. The air is so thick that men can barely speak. Someone vomits in a corner. The stench is unbearable. "Lieutenant Commander," whispers the chief engineer, "we have to surface. We maybe have 8 hours of air left. Maximum." Hartmann looks at him. His eyes are bloodshot. He hasn't slept for 40 hours, but his voice is firm. "Not yet," he says, "not yet. Because there are still 8 destroyers circling above, because surfacing means death. But staying here means slow suffocation. What do you do when both options are deadly? You attack again." Part 3, 96 Hours of Hell, the third attack. March 7th, 0400 hours, 48 hours underwater. Hartmann has been waiting for one thing, fog. And now, after 2 days, it comes. A thick fog descends over the North Atlantic. Visibility drops to 200 yards. This is his chance. "To periscope depth," orders Hartmann. The U-boat rises. 165 feet, 100 feet, 60 feet. Periscope depth. Hartmann looks out. Fog. Fog everywhere. He can barely see 100 yards. But he hears the ship engines. The convoy is still there. Slower now. Nervous. They know a U-boat is nearby. "Ready tubes, 7 and 8. The torpedo officer stares at him. Lieutenant Commander, we only have 4 torpedoes left. If we fire them, I know, says Hartmann quietly, but these ships must be sunk. He waits, patiently. A shadow appears in the fog. A large freighter, 12,000 tons, fully loaded with tanks and ammunition for the Eastern Front. Tube 7, fire! The torpedo slides into the water. 90 seconds later, boom! The freighter explodes. The ammunition aboard detonates. The explosion is so violent that even 650 feet underwater, the crew of U-198 feels it. The entire U-boat vibrates. But now, something unexpected happens. The pressure wave from the explosion slams into U-198. The U-boat is thrown sideways like a toy. Men are knocked off their feet. Instruments shatter. And worse, the hydroplanes jam. "We're sinking," shouts the helmsman. "Rudder's not responding." The U-boat plummets 130 feet, 200 feet, 260 feet, uncontrollably. "Blow all tanks, emergency," bellows Hartmann. The engineers force compressed air into the ballast tanks, but it's not working fast enough. 400 feet, 500 feet, 560 feet. At 600 feet, the pressure hull starts to give way. A terrible creaking. Metal bends. A seam rips open. Water shoots in like from a fire hose. Leak in the engine room. Water's rising. 3 men fight against the jet of water. They're trying to close an emergency valve. The ice-cold Atlantic water hits them with the force of a hammer. One is thrown against the wall. His arm breaks. He screams, but they manage it. The valve closes. The water slows, stops. And finally, at 630 feet, the descent stops. The compressed air wins. U-198 stabilizes. But the battery is now at 28%, and they're still 630 feet down, deeper than ever before. Cliffhanger 3. The chief petty officer comes to Hartmann. His face is ashen. "Lieutenant Commander, at 28% battery and this depth, we have power for maybe 6 hours. Then we're dead in the water. We can't surface. We can't maneuver. We'll sink like a stone to the bottom." Hartmann knows he's right. 13,000 feet deep is the Atlantic here. No one would ever find their bodies. The crew stares at him. 48 men. Some are 19 years old, kids in uniforms. They're waiting for his order. They trust him. But can he save them? 72 hours underwater. The air is poison. The battery is dying. The U-boat is damaged. What can a man do? Part 4. The last attack. The impossible maneuver. Hartmann closes his eyes. Just for 5 seconds, he thinks about his training, about all the simulations, about every trick he's ever learned, and then he sees the solution. It's insane. No one's ever tried it, but it's the only chance. "Chief Petty Officer," says Hartmann calmly, "pump all the water from the stern trim tank to the bow trim tank. All electric motors to full power forward. Hydroplanes to maximum up." The engineer understands immediately. "Lieutenant Commander, that'll drain all the batteries at once. We'll have maybe 8% left afterwards." If it doesn't work, we're dead anyway," says Hartmann. "Execute the order, now." What Hartmann is planning is an emergency ascent. He wants to shoot the U-boat upwards like a rocket. With the last of their power, all or nothing. "All hands, brace yourselves," shouts Hartmann. "Emergency ascent in 10 seconds. The crew clings to anything that's secure. Some are praying, some are crying. Now! The electric motors whine. Full power. The last batteries are being drained. The whole U-boat vibrates. The bow rises. 15 degrees, 20 degrees, 30 degrees. The U-boat is almost vertical. Men slide backwards. Tools fall. Somewhere glass shatters, but it's working. 600 feet, 500 feet, 400 feet. The U-boat shoots upwards like a torpedo. Faster, faster. 260 feet. 160 feet, 100 feet, and then, whoosh, U-198 breaks the surface. The U-boat jumps halfway out of the water, a huge fountain, and falls back with a tremendous splash. "Open the hatch! Get some air, quick!" Fresh air rushes in. Men breathe like drowning men. Some are crying with relief. 72 hours in a metal hell, and they're alive. But Hartmann knows they're not safe yet. "Start the diesel engines. Charge the battery. Where are the destroyers?" The watch officer scans the horizon. "No visual, Lieutenant Commander. The fog. We're alone." A miracle. The thick fog has hidden them. The destroyers are miles away. They can't hear the diesel engines, but the convoy is still there, just 13,000 feet away, and Hartmann still has 2 torpedoes. He looks at his crew, exhausted, traumatized men. They've suffered enough. He could flee now, go home. No one would judge him. But there are still ships, enemy ships, full of weapons to be used against German soldiers on the Eastern Front. Hartmann makes his decision. "Prepare torpedo tubes 9 and 10. One last attack." The torpedo officer nods. No questions, just obedience. They glide through the fog, silently, diesel engines at minimum. And then they see it. 2 large tankers, side by side. A total of 18,000 tons of fuel. Tube 9, fire. Tube 10, fire. The last 2 torpedoes. Run time, 90 seconds. Hartmann counts. 80, 75, 70. And then, boom, boom. Both tankers explode simultaneously. A double explosion. 18,000 tons of fuel detonate. The fireball is so large that it vaporizes the fog. A mushroom cloud rises into the sky. The explosion can be seen for 20 miles. And the destroyers see it too. "Crash dive, immediately," bellows Hartmann. But the batteries are at 8%. They can't go deep. Only 130 feet. Not enough. The destroyers rush towards them. Depth charges fall. Whump, whump, whump. One bomb explodes just 60 feet away. The U-boat is thrown upward. All the lights go out. Total darkness. "Battery's dead!" shouts the engineer. "We have no power left." U-198 drifts helplessly, dead in the water, 130 feet deep, the destroyers above them. This is the end, finale, the miracle and the price. But then something unbelievable happens. The explosions stop. Silence. Hartmann hears the ASDIC ping, ping, ping. But it's getting fainter, further away. "They're losing us," whispers the sonar man. They think we've sunk." The destroyers give up. After 96 hours, they believe the U-boat is destroyed. They sail away. U-198 drifts motionlessly, like a dead fish. But the crew lives. Slowly, very slowly, the emergency battery charges. 1%, 2%, enough to maneuver. March 8th, 0800 hours, 96 hours after the first attack. U-198 surfaces for the second time. The sun is shining, the ocean is empty, no convoy, no destroyers, nothing. 12 ships sunk, 47,000 tons. 4 days underwater, 8% battery life remaining, survived carbon dioxide poisoning, survived 400 depth charges. Lieutenant Commander Werner Hartmann and his crew had achieved the impossible. But at what cost? Epilogue, the shadow of triumph. Of the 48 men aboard U-198 on that mission, all survived the 96 hours. But 3 later died from the effects of carbon dioxide poisoning. Their lungs were permanently damaged. 7 more suffered nightmares for the rest of their lives. The sound of depth charges, the feeling of suffocating, the stench of 48 men crammed into a steel coffin. Werner Hartmann was awarded the German Cross in Gold for this mission. He was celebrated as a hero, but he never smiled the same way again. Years later, after the war, A reporter asked him what was going through your mind during those 96 hours. Hartmann remained silent for a long time. Then he said, "I was thinking about my men. Every second, every decision. How many would I bring home? How many would I lead to their death?" "And were you proud of the 12 ships sunk?" Hartmann looked at the reporter. His eyes were empty. "I was proud that 48 men survived. The ships, that was the war. But my men, that was my responsibility." U-198 sailed on 14 more missions, sinking 26 ships in total, but never again did Hartmann remain underwater for 96 hours. He said, "Some lines should only be crossed once. If you're lucky, you survive. If you try it twice, you die." On August 12, 1944, U-198 was sunk by a British destroyer. Hartmann was not on board at the time. He had relinquished command. Of the 66 men on board, only 4 survived. Hartmann lived until 1963. He never spoke much about the war. But once, in an interview, he said something that should never be forgotten. "War doesn't make heroes. War only makes survivors. And some survivors wear uniforms and medals. But that doesn't change the fact that they survived while others died. That's not an honor. That's just luck. And luck is cruel. End." This was the story of the impossible U-boat attack. 96 hours, 12 ships, never surfaced until the critical moment. A story of extreme discipline, tactical genius, and the will to survive, but also a story about the price men pay when they cross the line. Werner Hartmann was a brilliant commander. His men would have given their lives for him, and some did. That should never be forgotten.